The rain hammered against the tinted windows of the sleek black car as Aria Vance pressed herself into the corner of the leather seat, praying whoever owned this vehicle would take their time getting back. She was soaking wet, her interview clothes clinging uncomfortably to her skin, and she had exactly $12 left in her bank account after the subway card she bought this morning turned out to be defective. The parking garage attendant had left his post, and she had ducked into the first unlocked car she found when a security guard started making rounds. Just 5 minutes, she told herself. Just until the guard passed and she could make a run for the street level. The door suddenly opened, and a man slid into the back seat beside her, his phone pressed to his ear, his attention completely absorbed by whatever conversation he was having. He was tall even sitting down, with dark hair that looked professionally styled despite the weather, and a suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. "I do not care what the board thinks, Richard. We are not selling the maritime division. Tell them I said that is final." His voice was firm, controlled, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. He still had not looked at her. Aria held her breath. This was it. This was how she would die, mistaken for a carjacker or stalker and probably tased by whatever security detail a man like this surely had. But he kept talking, nodding occasionally, and the driver up front started the engine without a word. The car pulled smoothly out of the parking space and into the flow of traffic before the man finally ended his call. He leaned back against the seat, closing his eyes for a moment, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Then he turned his head and looked directly at her. Aria waited for the yelling, the threats, the immediate call to the police. Instead, his dark eyes simply assessed her, taking in her wet clothes, her nervous posture, the portfolio bag she clutched like a shield. "Rough day?" he asked, his tone almost conversational. "I can explain," Aria started, her words tumbling out fast. "I had an interview downtown and my subway card did not work, and I could not afford a cab. And then it started raining and I just needed a minute to figure out what to do. And the security guard was coming and your car was unlocked and I am so sorry. I will get out at the next light. I promise I am not dangerous or crazy or anything like that." He held up one hand, stopping her rambling. "The next light is still 10 blocks away. You will be soaked again within seconds." He glanced at her portfolio. What kind of interview? This was not how getting caught hiding in a stranger's car was supposed to go. Marketing position. At a publishing house. I did not get it. How do you know? Because the woman interviewing me spent the entire time looking at her phone and then told me they were looking for someone with more experience, which is what everyone says. Hard to get experience when no one will hire you to give you experience. She was talking too much, nervous energy making her mouth run, but he was still looking at her with an expression she could not quite read. That is a failure of their recruiting process, not your qualifications. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "Marcus, continue to my office. We have a passenger." The driver, Marcus apparently, nodded without comment, as if his boss regularly picked up soaking wet women from the back seat of his private car. "I really can just get out," Aria said, but her conviction was wavering. The car was warm and dry and the rain outside showed no signs of letting up. "You could, but you said you have no money for a cab and your subway card does not work. Where exactly are you planning to go?" "Home. Brooklyn." "That is at least an hour from here in this traffic." He turned his attention back to his phone, scrolling through what looked like an endless stream of emails. "I am Maxwell Ashford. Most people call me Max." The name meant nothing to Aria for about 5 seconds, and then it hit her like a truck. Maxwell Ashford. The Maxwell Ashford, who at 32 had turned his family's struggling shipping company into a global logistics empire worth billions. She had read an article about him just last month in Forbes. "Oh my God," she breathed. "I broke into a billionaire's car." The car was unlocked. Breaking in implies force. He glanced at her again, and this time there was the faintest hint of amusement in his expression. "And you still have not told me your name." "Aria. Aria Vance." She could not believe they were having a normal conversation. She could not believe he had not thrown her out onto the street or called the cops. "I really am sorry about this. I was not thinking clearly." Panic will do that. He put his phone down, giving her his full attention now. "Tell me about your marketing background." "What? Your interview?" "What was your pitch?" This had to be some kind of fever dream. "I have a degree in marketing and communications from NYU. I graduated 2 years ago. Since then, I have been freelancing, mostly social media management for small businesses, some content creation, a few branding projects. I am good at what I do. I just cannot seem to get anyone to take a chance on me for a full-time position." "What makes you good at it?" Aria hesitated, then figured she had nothing to lose at this point. "I understand people. What makes them click? What makes them care? What makes them remember?" Marketing is not about selling a product. It is about telling a story that matters to the right audience. Most companies forget that. They throw money at advertising without understanding who they are talking to or why those people should listen. Max nodded slowly, as if considering something. The car pulled up to a towering glass building in Midtown, the kind with a lobby that probably had actual artwork instead of generic prints. "Come up to my office," Max said as Marcus opened the door. "I should really just go home. In wet clothes with no money and no transportation." He stepped out of the car, then looked back at her. "I have a proposition for you. The least you can do is hear it." Against every reasonable instinct, Aria followed him. The lobby was exactly as intimidating as she expected, all marble and steel and important-looking people in expensive suits. But Max walked through it like he owned it, which she supposed he did, and nobody questioned the dripping wet woman trailing behind him. His office took up half of the 45th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that made Aria's breath catch despite everything else happening. Max shrugged off his suit jacket, loosened his tie, and gestured to a leather couch. "Sit. I will get you something dry to wear." He disappeared through a side door and returned a moment later with a soft gray sweatshirt and sweatpants that had clearly never been worn. "I keep spare clothes here. These will be too big, but they are better than pneumonia." "Thank you." Aria took them, still feeling like she had fallen into an alternate dimension. "Bathroom is through there. Take your time." When she emerged 5 minutes later, warm and dry and swimming in clothes that smelled like expensive laundry detergent, Max was at his desk, typing rapidly on his computer. He looked up as she entered. "Better. Much, thank you, really." Aria sat back down on the couch, folding her wet clothes into a neat pile. "You said you had a proposition." Max stood, moving to lean against the front of his desk, arms crossed. He was tall, probably 6'2", with the kind of build that suggested he actually used the gym membership he undoubtedly had. "My company is expanding into direct-to-consumer retail. We have always been business-to-business, logistics and supply chain management. But the market is changing, and I need someone who understands how to build a brand that resonates with actual people, not just procurement departments. You want to hire me?" Aria said it flatly, sure she must be misunderstanding. "I want to hear more about your approach. If I like what you have to say, then yes, I want to hire you. You do not know anything about me. I could be completely lying about my qualifications. You are not. How do you know? Because people who lie do not panic about being caught in my car. They have a story prepared. You were genuinely terrified and apologetic. That tells me you have a conscience, And the way you talked about marketing tells me you know what you are talking about. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. Am I wrong? No, Aria admitted. But this is insane. You cannot just hire someone you found hiding in your car. Why not? Traditional hiring methods have not been working particularly well, based on what you told me about your interview today. I need someone smart, creative, and hungry. You need a job. This seems efficient. Aria laughed despite herself, a slightly hysterical sound. Efficient. Right. I am serious, Aria. Max's voice was steady, certain. I have built my entire career on trusting my instincts about people, and my instinct says you are exactly what I need for this project. She wanted to argue, to point out all the ways this could go wrong, but the truth was she needed this. She needed any chance at all. What would the job entail? Max's expression shifted, became more businesslike. I am launching a premium lifestyle brand focusing on sustainable goods. Clothing, home items, personal care. Everything ethically sourced, environmentally conscious, but positioned as luxury, not sacrifice. I need someone to build the brand identity from the ground up. Social media strategy, influencer partnerships, launch campaign, ongoing content. It is a ground floor opportunity. That sounds amazing. Aria could already see it in her mind, the kind of clean, aspirational aesthetic that could really resonate. When would you need me to start? Monday. Salary is $120,000 a year, full benefits. Budget for your team once we determine what resources you need. Aria nearly choked. $120,000. That was more than double what the publishing house had been offering for a junior position. That is very generous. That is market rate for someone good, and I expect you to be very good. Max pushed off from the desk, extended his hand. Do we have a deal? Aria stood, taking his hand. His grip was firm, warm, confident. We have a deal. Excellent. My assistant will send you all the paperwork tonight. Come in Monday at 9 and we will get you set up. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his entire face from intimidating CEO to someone approachable, almost kind. And Aria, next time you need help, just ask. You do not need to hide in cars. She laughed, feeling the tension finally start to leave her shoulders. I will keep that in mind. Marcus drove her home to Brooklyn, and Aria spent the entire ride staring out the window, trying to process what had just happened. She had gone from broke and desperate to employed by one of the most successful businessmen in the country, all because she had panicked and hidden in the wrong car. When she finally made it inside her tiny apartment, she collapsed onto her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. An email from Maxwell Ashford's office with an offer letter, benefits information, and a welcome package. It was real. This was actually happening. Aria did not sleep much that night, her mind racing with ideas, possibilities, plans. By the time Monday morning arrived, she had 3 notebooks filled with concepts and strategies. She dressed in her best professional outfit, the one she saved for important interviews, and took the subway into Manhattan with a completely different energy than she had just 4 days ago. The Ashford Industries offices were even more impressive in daylight. Aria checked in at reception, got her security badge, and was escorted to the 38th floor where the new retail division was being set up. Her office was small but had a window, which felt like a luxury after 2 years of working from her apartment. Max knocked on her open door at 9:30, looking every bit the powerful executive in a charcoal suit. Getting settled? Yes, thank you for this office. I was not expecting my own space. You are going to be doing creative work. You need room to think. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets. I have a meeting with the development team at 10. I want you there. You should understand the products you are going to be marketing. The meeting was intense, detailed, with Max asking sharp questions about sourcing, manufacturing costs, quality standards. He was clearly someone who understood every aspect of his business, did not just delegate and forget. Aria took notes, absorbing information about organic cotton suppliers, sustainable packaging innovations, fair trade certifications. When it was over, Max caught her in the hallway. "Lunch. We should discuss your initial thoughts." They went to a quiet restaurant a few blocks away, the kind of place with white tablecloths and a wine list thicker than Aria's notebook. She ordered carefully, still hyper-aware of the surreal nature of having lunch with a billionaire who had found her hiding in his car less than a week ago. "You were quiet in the meeting," Max observed, cutting into his salmon with precise movements. "I was listening, learning. I cannot build a brand around products I do not understand. And now that you understand them." Aria set down her fork, leaning forward slightly. "I think you are approaching this from the wrong angle." Max raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "You are positioning this as luxury, which makes sense given the quality and price point. But luxury sustainable goods already exist. There are dozens of brands doing exactly that. What makes yours different?" "Quality, transparency, supply chain integration. That is operations. That is not story." Aria pulled out her notebook, flipping to a page covered in her scrawled ideas. "What you have that nobody else does is authenticity. You built a logistics empire. You know supply chains better than anyone in the world. That is your story. This is not just another celebrity or entrepreneur launching a lifestyle brand. This is the man who revolutionized how products move around the world, deciding to show people how it should be done right." Max was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face. "Keep going. We lead with education. Behind-the-scenes content showing the actual process, the actual people involved in making these products. We make transparency the brand. Not just saying things are sustainable, but proving it, showing it, making customers feel like they are part of something bigger than just buying another shirt." Aria's words were coming faster now, her passion for the concept overriding her nervousness. "And we do not use traditional influencers. We partner with people who are already doing good work, environmental activists, fair trade advocates, people with genuine platforms and genuine credibility. That is a risk. Those people are not always brand-friendly. They have opinions." "Exactly. That is what makes it real. We are not trying to control the message. We are confident enough in what we are doing that we can let people see everything and trust they will recognize quality and ethics when they see it." Max smiled, that same transforming smile from his office. "I knew I was right about you." They spent the rest of lunch talking strategy, and Aria felt herself relaxing into the conversation, forgetting to be intimidated by who he was. He listened when she talked, asked good questions, challenged her assumptions in ways that made her think harder, sharper. By the time they returned to the office, she had a clear vision for the launch campaign. Over the next few weeks, Aria threw herself into the work with an intensity she had not felt since college. She hired a small team, 3 people she had worked with on freelance projects who she knew were talented and hungry. She coordinated photo shoots at factories and farms, interviewed workers and artisans, built a content calendar that would roll out the brand's story piece by piece. Max was involved in every major decision, but he trusted her judgment, gave her room to execute her vision. They fell into a rhythm of morning check-ins and late afternoon debriefs, and Aria found herself looking forward to those conversations more than she wanted to admit. He was different than she expected. Yes, he was intense and demanding, with standards that were almost impossibly high. But he was also fair, quick to praise good work, and surprisingly funny when he let his guard down. He remembered details about her team members, asked about their lives, created an environment where people wanted to do their best work. One evening in mid-November, Aria was still at the office at 8 p.m., reviewing cut options for a promotional video. She heard a knock and looked up to find Max in her doorway, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. "You are still here," he said. "Last push before the preliminary launch next week. I want everything perfect." "It already is. I watched the rough cuts this morning." "The work you have done is exceptional, Aria." She felt warmth spread through her chest at the compliment. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you." Max stepped into her office, closing the door behind him. "Can I ask you something personal?" Aria's heart rate kicked up slightly. "Sure." "Do you ever think about that day, when you hid in my car? Only about 1,000 times." She laughed, shaking her head. "I still cannot believe you did not have me arrested. I almost did not stop the car. I almost told Marcus to let you out at the next light." Max moved closer, leaning against her desk in that casual way he had. "But there was something about the way you looked, terrified but trying so hard to be brave. And then you started talking and I just knew." "Knew what?" "That I wanted to know more, that you were someone interesting. Someone real." His voice had gone quieter, more intimate. "I have been thinking about it a lot lately. How much would have been different if my car had been locked that day, if I had been in a worse mood, less willing to listen. All the ways we might have missed each other entirely." Aria's breath caught. "Max, I know this is complicated. You work for me. But I need you to know that I have not been able to stop thinking about you as anything other than an employee for weeks now." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of uncertainty she had never seen from him before. "Tell me I am not imagining that you feel it too." She should say no. She should maintain professional boundaries and keep this relationship strictly business. But she could not lie, not to him, not about this. "You are not imagining it. Then have dinner with me, not a business dinner. A real date. Is that allowed? You are my boss. I do not care." Max's intensity was focused entirely on her now. "I will transfer you to a different division if you want, put you under someone else's supervision. But I cannot keep pretending that all I care about is your marketing strategy. I need to know if this is real." Aria stood, closing the distance between them until she was close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "Yes, I will have dinner with you." Max's smile was brilliant, unguarded in a way she had never seen. "Tomorrow night I will pick you up at 7. He did not kiss her, though she could see he wanted to. Instead, he squeezed her hand once and left, leaving Aria standing in her office with her heart pounding and her mind racing. The next day crept by with agonizing slowness. Aria changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that was elegant without trying too hard. When Max's car pulled up outside her building at exactly 7, she felt nerves flutter in her stomach like she was 18 again. But when she slid into the back seat and saw his face light up at the sight of her, the nerves transformed into anticipation. "You look beautiful," Max said simply. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." He had taken her to a small French restaurant in the West Village, the kind of place that did not look like much from the outside but was clearly special. The owner greeted Max by name, led them to a quiet corner table. "You come here often?" Aria asked, accepting a menu. "It is my favorite place in the city. No pretension, no scene. Just excellent food and privacy." Max looked almost nervous, which was endearing on someone usually so confident. "I wanted tonight to be about us, not about who might see us or what they might think." They ordered, and then Max reached across the table, taking her hand. "Tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with work." Aria thought for a moment. "I wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. I wrote terrible poetry and even worse short stories." but I loved the idea of creating something that could make people feel things. What changed? Reality, I guess. Writers do not make money. Marketing felt more practical. But I think that is why I am good at it. I am still telling stories. They just happen to be about brands instead of characters. Maybe you should start writing again, for yourself. Maybe. Aria squeezed his hand. What about you? What did you want to be before you became a business empire? Max's expression turned thoughtful. A pilot. I loved the idea of being up in the air, in control of something powerful and complex. My father hated it, said it was a waste of my education, my potential. He needed me in the family business. Do you regret it? No, I love what I do. But sometimes I wonder about the version of myself that made different choices. He smiled, but it was tinged with something wistful. I think that is why I responded to you the way I did. You were not supposed to be in that car. I was not supposed to let you stay. But we both made choices that went against logic, and look where we ended up. The food arrived, and they ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Max told her about growing up with impossible expectations, about the pressure of taking over his father's company, and the satisfaction of transforming it into something new. Aria shared stories about her childhood in Connecticut, about her mother who worked 2 jobs to put her through college, about the fear and freedom of moving to New York alone. By the time dessert arrived, Aria felt like she had known Max for years instead of weeks. He was easy to talk to when the CEO mask came off, thoughtful and present in a way that made her feel valued, seen. I should tell you something, Max said as they waited for the check. My family is going to be difficult about this. About us. We have only had 1 date. Is not that premature? My mother has been trying to set me up with appropriate women since I turned 30. Daughters of business associates, socialites, women from the right families. She is not going to be happy that I am choosing someone she did not vet first. Aria felt a chill of reality intrude on the warm bubble of the evening. Maybe we should slow down then, figure out what this is before we deal with family complications. Or maybe we do exactly the opposite. Max paid the check and stood, offering his hand. Come with me. They walked through the village, Max's hand warm around hers, until they reached a small park overlooking the Hudson. The city lights reflected on the water, and the November air was crisp but not yet bitter. I am not good at slow, Max said, turning to face her. I know what I want and I go after it. In business, in life. And I want you, Aria. Not because you are convenient or appropriate or fit some checklist. Because you are brilliant and brave and you make me feel like I can be more than just the guy who runs a shipping empire. Max, I feel the same way, but I do not want to be the reason you have problems with your family. You will not be. They will just have to accept that I make my own choices. He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. Let them be difficult. I do not care. I only care about this, about you. When he kissed her, it was nothing like Aria expected and exactly what she needed. Soft at first, questioning, and then deeper when she responded, pulling him closer. She felt the world narrow down to just this moment, this man. This perfect, unexpected thing growing between them. They dated for the next 3 months in a bubble of happiness that felt almost surreal. Max made time in his impossible schedule for long dinners, weekend trips to his house in the Hamptons, quiet mornings before work. Aria kept expecting reality to intrude, for the differences in their worlds to create friction, but it never did. Max did not care that she lived in a tiny apartment or that her wardrobe came from outlet stores. He liked that she was real, that she challenged him, that she did not want anything from him except his time and attention. The brand launch in January was a massive success. Aria's strategy of radical transparency resonated exactly the way she predicted, and sales exceeded projections by 40% in the first month. Max was proud, making sure everyone knew the campaign was her vision, her execution. But he also made good on his promise to transfer supervision of her work to his COO, eliminating any hint of impropriety about their relationship. Not that it stopped office gossip. Aria heard the whispers. New people were speculating about how she really got her job, but she did not care. She knew the truth. She had earned her position before anything romantic developed. The real test came in February when Max's mother insisted on meeting her. Millionaire Ashford was exactly as intimidating as Aria feared. Elegant, poised, with eyes that assessed and judged in seconds. They met for lunch at Millionaire's country club, and Aria felt severely out of place in her department store dress among women wearing casual outfits that probably cost thousands. "So you are the young woman Maxwell has been spending so much time with," Millionaire said, her tone perfectly polite and completely cold. "Yes, madam, it is nice to finally meet you. Tell me about your family, dear. What does your father do?" "My father was not around. My mother raised me alone." "She is a nurse." Millionaire's expression did not change, but Aria saw the judgment flash in her eyes. "How noble! And you met Maxwell at the office." "Actually, we met by chance, before I started working for him." Aria was not going to lie, but she also was not going to share the full ridiculous truth. "How fortunate for you. Maxwell is quite a catch. I am aware. I am also aware that you think I am not good enough for him." Aria set down her fork, meeting Millionaire's gaze directly. "But with respect, that is not your decision to make. Max and I care about each other. I am not after his money or his status. I have my own career that I worked hard for. I just want to be with him." Millionaire was quiet for a long moment, studying Aria with those sharp, assessing eyes. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "You have spine. I appreciate that. Most of the women his age he has dated were terrified of me. I am terrified. I am just not letting it stop me from being honest." Millionaire laughed, a real, genuine sound. "Perhaps I have underestimated you. Maxwell clearly sees something special. I suppose I should trust his judgment. He has never been wrong about business decisions." "I am not a business decision." "No, you are not. You are the woman making my son happier than I have seen him in years. That counts for something." Millionaire reached across the table, patting Aria's hand. "But if you hurt him, I will make your life very difficult. If I hurt him, I will deserve it." After that lunch, things got easier. Millionaire was not warm exactly, but she was polite, included Aria in family events, stopped making pointed comments about Max's dating history. Max's father was less involved, mostly caring that Aria made his son happy and did not interfere with business. Max's younger sister, Madison, was immediately friendly, thrilled her brother had finally found someone who treated him like a person instead of a bank account. Spring came, and Aria moved into Max's penthouse apartment after spending enough consecutive nights there that keeping her Brooklyn place seemed silly. It was a huge adjustment, living in a space bigger than most people's houses, but Max made it feel like home. They cooked together on weekends, watched movies in his elaborate home theater, fell asleep on the couch talking until 2 a.m. about dreams and fears and futures. One Saturday in May, Max took Aria back to the parking garage where she had hidden in his car 6 months earlier. "Why are we here?" she asked, confused. "Because this is where everything started." Max opened the door to his car, the same one she had desperately scrambled into that rainy October afternoon. "Get in." Aria slid into the back seat, and Max followed, pulling the door closed behind them. The leather was warm from the sun, and the enclosed space felt intimate, private. I have been thinking about fate lately, Max said, taking her hand. I do not usually believe in that sort of thing. I believe in hard work, strategy, calculated risks. But then, I think about all the coincidences that had to align perfectly for us to meet. For you to choose this car. For me to be running late that day so the car was still unlocked. For me to be distracted enough on my phone that I got in without checking the back seat first. It does seem unlikely, Aria agreed, wondering where he was going with this. And then I think about how I knew, almost immediately, that you were going to be important. I did not know how yet, but I knew I did not want to let you leave without understanding why you were there, who you were. Max shifted, reaching into his pocket. I have never believed in love at first sight, but I believe in recognition, and I recognized you, Aria, from that very first moment. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Aria's breath stopped entirely. I know this is fast. I know we have only been together 6 months, but I am 32 years old and I have dated enough to know what I want, and I want you, every day, for the rest of my life. Max opened the box, revealing a stunning ring, a simple band with a perfect diamond that caught the light. Marry me, please. Aria felt tears spill over, her heart so full she thought it might burst. Yes. Yes, of course yes. Max's hands shook slightly as he slid the ring onto her finger, and then he was kissing her, laughing against her mouth, pulling her close in the back seat of the car where they had met. I love you, Aria whispered. I have loved you for months. I was just afraid to say it first. I love you too. From the moment you started rambling about subway cards and interviews. Max kissed her again, slower this time. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, including the billion-dollar empire. They got married 3 months later in August at Max's family estate in Connecticut. It was smaller than Alina wanted and bigger than Aria was comfortable with, but it was perfect. Aria's mother cried through the entire ceremony, and Madison was a wonderful maid of honor, and when Max said his vows, his voice was steady and sure. I promise to always trust my instincts about you, even when logic says otherwise. I promise to value what you bring to my life beyond your professional skills, though those are exceptional. I promise to never ask you to leave, no matter what car you end up hiding in. The guests laughed, though most of them did not understand the reference. But Aria did, and that was all that mattered. They honeymooned in Italy. 2 weeks of not thinking about work or family obligations or anything except each other. They ate too much pasta and drank too much wine and explored ancient cities hand in hand. Max was more relaxed than Aria had ever seen him, content to wander without an agenda, to just be present. When they returned to New York, they fell back into their routine, but everything felt different now. Better, more solid. They were building a life together, not just dating, and Aria loved every aspect of it. Her career continued to thrive. The retail brand's success led to opportunities to consult for other companies, and after a year, Max encouraged her to start her own marketing agency. She did, and it grew rapidly, fueled by her reputation and her genuine talent. Max was her biggest supporter, celebrating every client win, every successful campaign. But he also made sure they maintained boundaries between work and home. They had a rule: no business talk after 8 p.m. That time was just for them. 2 years into their marriage, Aria discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified to tell Max, unsure how a baby would fit into their busy, demanding lives. But when she finally shared the news over dinner at the French restaurant where they had their first date, Max's reaction erased all her fears. "We are having a baby," he breathed, his eyes bright. "We are going to be parents. Are you happy?" Aria asked, needing to hear him say it. "I am ecstatic, terrified but ecstatic." Max came around the table, pulling her into his arms. You are going to be an amazing mother. You are going to be an amazing father. Their daughter, Maya, was born the following spring, and she was perfect. Tiny and loud and demanding, with Max's dark eyes and Aria's smile. Max was completely smitten, arranging his schedule so he could be home for bath time every night, getting up for middle-of-the-night feedings despite Aria's protests that he had early meetings. "I did not have a father who was present," Max said one night, holding Maya against his chest while she slept. "I am not going to be that for her. She is going to know she is loved, that she matters more than any business deal or board meeting." And he meant it. As Maya grew from infant to toddler, Max carved out time for her constantly. He taught her to swim in the pool at their country house, read her stories every night, attended every school event and recital. He was present in a way his own father had never been, breaking the cycle of emotional distance that had defined his childhood. Aria watched him with their daughter and fell in love with him all over again, deeper than she thought possible. They had 2 more children over the next 5 years, a son named Miles and another daughter named Mia. Their lives were chaotic and full and exhausting, balancing demanding careers with the constant needs of 3 small humans. But they made it work through teamwork, communication, and a foundation of love that had started in the most unlikely way. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Max took Aria back to that parking garage one more time. The car was long gone, replaced with a newer model, but the spot was the same. "Do you ever regret how we met?" Max asked, leaning against the concrete pillar. "That it was not some romantic movie moment," Aria laughed, moving into his arms. "Are you kidding? Our story is better than any movie. Woman hides in billionaire's car, billionaire decides to keep her. That is ridiculous and perfect and completely us. I have thought about that day 1,000 times over the years. What if I had been in a different mood? What if I had noticed you right away and reacted with anger instead of curiosity? So many ways it could have gone wrong, but it did not. We both made the choice to stay open, to see where it went. That was not fate. That was us deciding to take a chance." Aria looked up at her husband, this man who had changed her entire life by simply not asking her to leave. "I would choose you 1,000 times, Max, in every version of this story. And I would always choose to let you stay." He kissed her there in the dim light of the parking garage, and Aria thought about the terrified woman she had been 10 years ago, desperate and soaking wet and hiding in a stranger's car. That woman could never have imagined this life, this love, this beautiful, complicated family they had built together. But that was the thing about taking chances. You never knew which moment would change everything, which choice would lead to happiness, which risk would pay off beyond your wildest dreams. Aria had taken a risk hiding in that car. Max had taken a risk letting her stay, and that mutual leap of faith had become the foundation of everything good in their lives. They drove home together, Max's hand covering hers, both of them thinking about the past and the future and the incredible present they had created. Their kids would be waiting at home with the babysitter, probably still awake despite bedtime having passed an hour ago. There would be chaos and noise and demands for attention. But there would also be love. So much love that it still amazed Aria sometimes, the sheer magnitude of it. That night, after the kids were finally asleep and the house was quiet, Aria and Max sat on their bedroom balcony overlooking the city. The lights spread out before them like stars, and the air was warm with approaching summer. "You remember what you said to me that first day?" Aria asked. "In the car, before you knew I was there, you told someone on the phone that you did not care what the board thought." "I say that a lot," Max smiled. "Why?" "Because that is when I realized what kind of person you were, someone who trusted their own judgment." someone who was not afraid to go against expectations. That gave me courage to tell you the truth instead of just running away. I am glad you did. Running away would have been easier, but this has been so much better." Max pulled her closer, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the city they both loved. In a few hours, Maya would wake them up demanding pancakes. Miles would refuse to get dressed for camp. Mia would insist on wearing her princess dress despite it being 90 degrees outside. It would be chaos, but it would be their chaos. Their beautiful, messy, perfect life. And it had all started because Aria Vance had hidden in Maxwell Ashford's car on a rainy October afternoon, and neither one of them had asked her to leave after. That single decision, that moment of possibility, had rippled out into a decade of love and partnership and family. Aria had learned something important that day, though she had not recognized it at the time. Sometimes the best things in life came from moments of desperation, from mistakes that were not mistakes at all, from taking shelter in unexpected places. And sometimes, the person you were meant to find was the one who looked at you in your worst moment and saw possibility instead of problems, who offered help instead of judgment, who chose curiosity over convenience. Max had been that person for her. And she had been brave enough, desperate enough to accept what he was offering. The rest was not fate or luck or chance. It was choice. Every single day choosing each other, choosing to build something together, choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier. Years later, when Maya was old enough to ask how her parents had met, Aria told her the truth. All of it. About being broke and desperate, about hiding in a stranger's car, about her father deciding to trust his instincts and change both their lives. "That is so weird," Maya said, wrinkling her nose. "Mom, you could have gotten arrested. I know. It was not my finest moment, but sometimes the things that seem like terrible ideas end up being exactly what you need. Did you know right away that you loved Daddy?" Aria thought about it, remembering that first look between them in the car, the way her fear had transformed into something else when he asked about her day instead of calling security. "I think I knew there was something special, something worth exploring. Love came after when I got to know who he really was, but the potential was there from the start." "That is actually kind of romantic," Maya admitted, "in a weird way." "All the best stories are a little weird," Max said, appearing in the doorway of Maya's room. "Your mother certainly kept me on my toes from day one." "Still do," Aria said, catching his eye. They had built something extraordinary from the most unlikely beginning, and every day Aria was grateful for the courage she had found in her desperation, for the compassion Max had shown in his response. They had taken a moment that could have been nothing and transformed it into everything. And as she watched Max tuck their daughter into bed, listened to him tell her stories about the adventures they would have tomorrow, Aria felt the deep contentment of someone who had found exactly where they belonged. It had not been the plan. It had not been logical or sensible or remotely reasonable. But hiding in that car had been the best mistake she had ever made. And Max not asking her to leave had been the best decision he had ever made. Together, they had created a life filled with love, laughter, challenge, and joy. They had 3 beautiful children, thriving careers, a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They had family, friends, a community they had built together. And it had all started with a moment of panic, a choice to stay, and 2 people brave enough to see where an impossible situation might lead. As Aria fell asleep that night, Max's arm around her waist, she thought about all the women out there facing their own desperate moments, their own impossible choices. She hoped they would find their own version of this, their own unexpected shelter. Their own person who chose to see possibility instead of problems. Because love, real lasting love, rarely came in the package you expected. It came in rainy afternoons and locked cars and conversations with strangers. It came when you were brave enough to be vulnerable and lucky enough to find someone who valued that bravery. Aria had been vulnerable. Max had been open. And together, they had built something neither could have created alone. That was the real story. Not that she had hidden in his car, though that detail made for good telling. The real story was that when given the choice between easy and right, between convenient and compassionate, Maxwell Ashford had chosen to see a person instead of a problem. He had chosen to offer help instead of judgment. He had chosen to ask questions instead of making assumptions. And Aria had chosen to be honest, to accept help, to take a chance on a stranger who showed her unexpected kindness. Those choices had created everything. The marriage, the children, the love that filled their home and their lives. All of it traced back to those first decisions made in the back of a car on a rainy October day. Sometimes Aria still could not believe how much had changed. From broke and desperate to successful and secure. From alone to surrounded by family. From hiding to being completely seen and loved for exactly who she was. But mostly she just felt grateful. Grateful for the rain that had sent her seeking shelter. Grateful for the unlocked car door. Grateful for Max's distracted phone call that had let her slip in unnoticed. Grateful for his curiosity, his kindness, his willingness to see past the surface to who she really was. Life was funny that way. The moments that seemed like disasters could become doorways to happiness. The choices that felt terrifying could lead to peace. The risks that seemed foolish could pay off beyond imagination. You just had to be brave enough to take them. To hide in the car. To not ask the stranger to leave. To see where the impossible situation might lead if given a chance to unfold. Aria and Max had been brave. And they had been rewarded with a love story for the ages, starting from the most unlikely beginning and growing into something beautiful, lasting, and real. That was the magic of it. Not that it was easy or perfect or destined, but that they had both chosen, every day, to make it work. To honor the gift they had been given in each other. To build something worthy of the chance they had taken. And as the years continued to pass, as their children grew and their love deepened, Aria never forgot that first moment. The fear and desperation. The sound of the car door opening. The instant her life had changed forever, though she had not known it yet, because that was when Maxwell Ashford had entered her life, and neither one of them had asked her to leave after. That choice, that simple choice to stay and be stayed with, had created everything that mattered. And it always would.